in China, the pressure is coming mainly from the fact that there's been a really big lack of licenses in China. For the listeners who are unaware, the Chinese requires an ISBN license for every game that is to be published in the mainland. And there was a big freeze that went on since last July, and starting in this April, there was a loosening of that freeze of licenses, and 241 game licenses have been issued, but NetEase has not received any of them. And all of the game licenses issued are for domestically developed games, none of them licensed from overseas. So this is a big amount of pressure on the market.
So, Lisa, I got to ask you kind of a geeky question, right? There's a competitor, Capcom, and the guy who's basically known as Mr. Resident Evil quit the company after 27 years and jumped over to NetEase in terms of content and creation in the pipeline. How significant is this?
Yeah, NetEase is really reaching out to international markets for growth and investing in building studios. They're building or buying, I'd say, some significant studio in the US and Canada and other markets. And along with the trend from other Chinese game companies in the market there, that NetEase has really invested overseas because the growth domestically has been a little bit hamstrung with the lack of licenses that I mentioned, and with the fact that there have been significant regulations impacting youth gamers. And so as these two things are in play, and with the lockdowns that were in Shanghai and now in Hainan and other places throughout China, it's just been very difficult for many companies, but the game industry is no exception. They had a major great growth year in 2020 and into 2021 as well. But this year it's been much more difficult.
Lisa, this is Emily here joining the conversation. Now, as you talk about the international market for all these gaming companies, we also heard from Tencent, and for them, the domestic market and the international market in terms of games was down. Is NetEase seeing a little bit of a different fortune when it comes to its overseas ambitions? Yeah, I think even domestically, NetEase, for their online game services revenue, they were up 15.9% year on year for Q2. And that is a really good thing because Tencent comparatively was down 1%. So I think that NetEase is really the bright, shiny star in this market right now. Some of that becomes because before that freeze on licenses that I mentioned, NetEase was lucky enough to have some licenses approved, and then those games launched in this period of kind of this dry spell of licenses. And where they're seeing domestic success, like with Naraka Blade Point and with Diablo Immortal, they're also seeing these games popular overseas. And I think there's going to be a lot of success overseas too with one of their domestic hits, Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is going to be launched overseas too. So with the investment in kind of games that would be successful in China and overseas, as well as the investment in these overseas studios, and really just like focusing on their core competency and having a little bit of luck, if I'm being honest, with the timing of the game releases that were already licensed in the market, I think that's why NetEase is enjoying a little bit of a better position than Tencent at the moment. That being said, Tencent is always going to be, not always, looks like Tencent will remain the largest company coming out of China for the games industry. And NetEase has about 20% market share by our estimate, whereas Tencent has at least double that.